I bugged my mom about it. Did you see that? I was a little kid. Anyway.
Remember Glen Allen Hill's home run?
The one across the street?
Yes, that was incredible. It's still incredible. I still go into YouTube and watch that every once in a while. All right, so we are live and we are recording. Let me get a test on your mic, Amy, real quick.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Loud as ever, darling.
Hi, gentlemen.
There we go. And Brian, you?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
10.
Perfect. All right. I'll start the commercial.
Support for Wrong About Everything comes from Minnesota's credit unions. Credit unions are locally based, member-owned financial cooperatives that return earnings to members through higher savings rates, lower loan rates, and reduced fees. Visit mncun.org for more information.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Wrong About Everything podcast. I am Republican strategist and semi-hopeful Chicago Bears fan, Brian McDaniel.
I am former Republican Senate Majority Leader and former Coke, Amy Frederickson.
We didn't talk about that before you did this.
I'm CFL lawyer lobbyist Matthew Bergeron.
And we are
Wrong About Everything.
We have just been sitting here.
Yeah.
What? You didn't tell me you were going to do that. All right. All right. Well, now I know.
Well, you got married. We talked about that last time.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
All right. That's what we'll do.
The podcaster formerly known as
That's fine. We have to change initials on a bunch of documents now in the office.
We will. Eventually. We'll get to that. That'll take a while.
But anyway, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Minnesota Credit Union Network studios, deep within the recesses of MBC Studios here in Northeast Minneapolis. We have our capable and very handsome producer, Gabe Noah, in the other room. And we have a credit union surprise for you in a little bit. The Tranche Master is back.
He's
Ryan
back.
Smith. But before that,
the people demand it.
we hope that you are watching us on YouTube. Mm-hmm. If you are, please give us a like, subscribe, and consider sending it to a friend. Send it to a neighbor. Send it to a total stranger. We would appreciate that greatly. We also want to thank our sponsors. In addition to the Minnesota Credit Union Network,
who sponsors the studio in which we sit.
The studio in which we are right now. We're not changing the name of the studio, are we?
No, no.
Now I guess I have to ask. I'd like to thank our newest sponsor, the Minnesota Licensed Beverage Association. Since 1952, the Minnesota Licensed Beverage Association has been helping licensed beverage retailers in the state of Minnesota with information, resources, educational programs, and government affairs services designed to promote and protect their business. All of their members understand that with the MLBA, they are not alone. As also, Mike Bryant at Bradshaw & Bryant is not alone. He's got a whole firm. He's got an entire team of attorneys and staff dedicated to providing the legal advice you need, combined with the service and personal attention you deserve. If you have questions about how they can assist you with a personal injury, wrongful death, or criminal defense matter, do not hesitate to contact them. Consultations are free. Please contact them at 800-770-7008 or at minnesotapersonalinjury.com.
And as always, no snitches.
No snitches.
Mike Bryant will not.
He doesn't
will
tolerate
not represent
that.
snitches.
He's got no time for snitches. But we just want to make sure that everyone who enjoys the program, and we know that there are some of you out there still, that we could not do this without our sponsors. They are the reason that you get to listen to this, and we appreciate it greatly. We don't take money, but we do need it for production costs and to pay the handsome guy in the other room, Gabe Noah. So we just want you to know
I thought you were
we
just paying him
them.
with compliments today.
Well,
I need that money to keep it tight.
Okay. All right.
All right. Well, I want to bring in our special guest, Ryan Smith. It has been far
But
too
first,
long.
Hold on. We have
What?
also a co-host that maybe ought to reintroduce himself because it's been a while.
Okay.
It's been a minute.
Amy's
It
just
has
making
been.
calls on the fly all
Well,
over
I'm
the
sorry.
place today.
I'm just like we're just going to gloss over the fact that folks, listeners, longtime listeners know, but Matthew, when was the last time you co-hosted?
It's been a little while.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
probably been 7, 8, 9 months since I've been
Yeah,
on. And
I mean,
before
nuts.
that, it had been a little while before that. So no, it's always a pleasure to be on to chat with you all. Javier's got big shoes to fill, but I'll do my best to be as wrong about things as he is.
Thank you.
I don't
I
know.
don't know if you can.
You're gonna pull if you try to do that. You're gonna pull something. But Javier thought he could do it. He's doing the Moth tonight.
Big Super Slam, right?
Super Slam, Summer Slam.
Summer Slam.
well,
I think
that's
it's
wrestling.
It's a Grand Slam. Anyway, it's
a
the
Grand
big
Slam.
where all the top Moth story winners come together, and of course Javier, it's one of his favorite things to do. It's super fun. I'm sure there are not tickets available, or he would have told us that, because this thing goes fast. But anyway, he's got the Super Slam
And
tonight.
Amy just decided that it's now known as the Moth Stravaganza. So
Did I?
Yes.
Yep, it's the Moth Stravaganza.
Yes. She's
it's
on
not
a
a
roll.
Super Slam.
But anyway, so Matthew,
Well, welcome.
thank you so much for on short notice being able to step in and lend us your capital expertise. Now may I
Absolutely.
announce Ryan Smith?
Proceed.
Thank you very much. Ryan Smith, as previously noted, it has been far too long since you have graced the
Credit Union Network studio.
and via Zoom the studio that you helped build. So thank you for coming back, and you are the tranche master. So what's going on in the world of credit unions, my friend?
Well, first off, let me just start off by saying it's great to be back here on the Momentum Advocacy podcast. It's really fun to be a part of it. But in all seriousness, it's always great to see you guys and to see Matthew as well. We have been a proud, longtime sponsor of the podcast. So I just feel it's always important to remind folks that we have been, not from minute one, but certainly early on in the podcast history. We've always been really strong supporters. And we're also... the fact that you guys have a new sponsor, I love myself a good Minnesota licensed beverage, so that's a good ad.
Giddy up.
Well, remember this summer we had Credit Union beer.
Yeah, we did.
What was the name of the beer?
High Yield Pale Ale.
High Yield Pale Ale.
A cooperative beer
Yeah.
that we helped basically make in conjunction with a brewery not very far from where you guys are sitting right now in Northeast, Broken Clock Brewing. And it's something we've been really proud of, not for many reasons, because it's very delicious, but also because a portion of those proceeds, every beer sold in either the brewery itself or in stores around the cities, up as far north as Brainerd and up in the Iron Range, a portion of every sale goes to help financial literacy efforts that the Minnesota Credit Union Network Foundation supports. So it's a great tasting beer that's for a good cause.
And can people still get?
It's just something that,
Yep. Can people still buy High
You
Yield
can get
Pale
it in the
Ale, or is
brewery.
it just a summer thing?
Yep.
Oh, okay,
Nope,
good.
you can get it in the stores. You can get it in the brewery itself. It's still available. We're going to be regrouping to see if we're going to do something again next year at some point. But as of right now, it is still on the taps. I was just in the tap room last week and had probably more than I should have, but it's still delicious.
Great.
Well, don't worry, people. They do not let him handle the money, so it's okay. He's just here to look pretty and give us information.
Exactly. Well, and to that, Brian, the reason why we talked about me coming on today, you guys have known me for a long, long time, and you know that I'm a credit union evangelist, and I've loved what I've done. I've worked for the network now for almost 14 years, and love doing what I've done every single day. It's what's the old adage about if you love what you do, you'll never have to work a day in your life. And just, I'm so proud of what our folks do, the impact that we have in our communities. And one of those credit union differentiators, one of those things that really sets our folks apart is just the connection we have with our communities. And just last week, I alluded to being at Broken Clock. Well, that was at the end of a day of credit union give back and volunteering. So every year on Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, whatever you call it, whatever you want to call it, it's a federal banking holiday. And I think it was been 12 years ago now that credit unions have been volunteering in their communities on that day rather than take a day off well-earned day of rest, do stuff, to catch up on staff work or whatever, credit unions are in the communities volunteering for a day of give back. Like I said, the first year that we did it was 12 years ago, and it's grown every single year since then. We had over 50 credit unions and partners join us this year. We had about 1,200 people in total that we know of at least, and there's chances are there's a lot more because we haven't tallied everything as of yet, but at least 1,200 people across Minnesota scattered around into their communities to help at food shelves, to pick up litter in local parks, help old people across the street, just basically spend a day giving back and supporting their communities. And it's something that I'm just particularly proud of. Not least of which also because that spirit of Minnesota Give Back has led to other states following our fine example. And we've now got 7 other states that are doing the same thing and doing a day of Give Back. Those lugs next door in Wisconsin, Michigan, Brian's home state of Illinois, Maine, Tennessee, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania have all now undertaken this day of Give Back. So it's just something that, I think is worth celebrating. So it's not least since it was just last week, but I thought it was something worthy of coming on and talking about, making sure that your vast audience understood and knew about.
It's very cool. We actually, we packed boxes for Second Harvest, correct?
Yep.
That was part of the Give Back Day. You guys been doing that. That's been several years now.
Yeah, for sure.
Very
that was
cool.
Pre-pandemic when you guys joined us. So yeah.
Wow.
It's good times.
Was.
It's such a good feeling. And to do it with a bunch of people that are just as enthusiastic about credit unions and the work we do in our communities is just something something really fun to be a part of.
That's awesome. Well, we as members of the credit union are thankful and grateful and very glad to be a part of something be in banking, to be in our having our money watched over by folks that also care so deeply about the communities.
And this just isn't blowing smoke at a sponsor because we do bank
yes we do
at credit unions, but they really are connected to the community. I like that I go in there and it's in our modern age, so much of it is done electronically, but when I go into my credit union, they say hi Brian. They know exactly who I am, and I just think that is cool.
It's very cool.
Brian, just so you know, I did get word you are on a watch list at the credit union, so that's not necessarily friendliness. That's more of just safety.
It's just like being
you've
smart.
Got him right there.
If they can be smart with their safety, they can be smart with your money.
I don't think that's so.
And they don't count how many suckers I take either. So I appreciate that.
Oh no, they're counting. They're letting right now.
Sure.
Do they call you later and say you owe us for 5 suckers that Brian took?
He's just turning into my grandfather, where he goes bank to bank to check on interest rates. He's just like wanders in and out of each credit union for an afternoon outing.
That's what I do when I need pens.
Or sugar.
It's because of Brian. This is probably not widely known, but it's because of Brian that they started adding chains to pens.
Yeah.
The branch.
Well, once again,
that
that just makes good sense.
Wow.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming by. Thank you for everything that the credit unions do for the state of Minnesota, for us individually, for the podcast, and for the communities that they are in, and for the podcast. So thank you so much, and we'll have you back on real soon.
Love it. And thanks, guys. Always great to see you all. And thank you for the work that you do. I mean, I just as a sponsor, but also as a friend and supporter of the podcast, it is a must. Well, for me, it's a listen because I'm old, but for anybody that's watching on YouTube, this is a must listen to every week. So always appreciate the tone and tenor of your guys' conversation. It's something that I think we need more of these days.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Great to see you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Mr. Bergeron, so we're going to talk a little bit about some Minnesota. And I don't know if does this like fall into the category of gossip almost a little bit?
I mean, yes, I have to say it's a little bit of gossip because while there have been some articles with speculation, and certainly I've talked to in the mainstream media, I do often get questions about the next subject that we're going to speak about. There has been nothing officially reported, nothing even officially like out there, right? Just a lot of questions.
Yeah. So to answer the question, is Minnesota House Speaker Lisa Demuth running for governor, I can say with absolute certainty, I don't know.
Yes.
But
as well.
But 2 weeks ago, I would have said no. She's out. She's Speaker of the House, and that she has shown no interest in running for governor. Tim Walz has said that he's running for a third term. State Representative Kristen Robbins is in, along with a couple of people who have run before, Kendall Qualls and Dr. Scott Jensen.
Yep.
So there and probably a few more names to come that we have heard out in the ether. But in the last week, it seems that there is just a lot more chatter that is not being immediately rebuked by the Demuth camp, which makes me think that there probably is at least a little bit of fire with this smoke. Matthew, are you kind of hearing the same thing out in the world, or what's your take on this?
Yeah, and at the events and places I've been where the speaker has been there, she of course either gotten the question in a public forum or privately, folks when they get their moment to shake her hand, say hello, ask the question, and has generally deflected as you would expect, and so it's kind of looming out there, and those kinds of things always exist when you've got somebody in a prominent state legislative role who's considering something like that. But I have to imagine the what happens if she runs question is markedly different in the current political climate and makeup of the state legislature than ever before. No other speakers had to quite navigate a situation like this when making this kind of a political future decision.
Well, and I think that if you kind of look at the history of the state of Minnesota, certainly if you look at our careers, which I might have been up at the Capitol a little bit before you guys. I'm on my 26th year, but speakers of the House, that tends to be the loftiest place that they go. You don't have a lot of speakers of the House that in Minnesota that have gone on to U.S. Senate or to governor or to a higher
Many
office.
have run.
Correct.
Right. I can think of multiple that have run in my time, but not. I mean, Margaret Anderson Kelleher was Speaker of the House and ran. Kurt Zellers, Speaker of the House, ran. So they certainly have run for higher office. Haven't necessarily made that leap. Yep. You had President of the Senate, Michelle Fischbach, who is now currently serving in Congress. So there's an example over there. But even Roger Moe, who was Majority Leader of the Senate for 20-some years, the longest serving Majority Leader in the Minnesota Senate, ran for governor and did not make it. Legislature doesn't tend to be the place. But a couple of things that I've noted is when Governor Walz announced he was running for a third term, which would be an historic third term. We have never had a governor serve 3 terms. Rudy Perpich tried. He had sort of a 2.5, like a tail-on term. But no one has run. But when he ran, he lost. Because it's constitutional, just because Minnesotans kind of like a 2-term governor. So that coupled with his run for vice president, coupled with sort of all the, I just saw the headline in the Star Tribune yesterday, or was it this morning, was all about fraud, waste, and abuse again, right? The stories are rampant. So it feels like, that this would be a year, despite having not won since 2006, that Republicans could have a real shot at statewide candidate. And so when he announced, I thought, well, now we're going to see other Republicans jump in, and just kind of a bigger field, which has not come to fruition. And here we are in October, where you're, just over a year out from the next election. And if you want name ID, because you are going to be facing a potential third term governor who has a tremendous amount of name ID, who's been raising money, has a real national ability now to raise money. If you're going to jump in as a Republican, you got to get in. You got to get your name out there, and you got to be raising money, and you got to be making a case for. Despite having not won since 2006, Republicans can win this seat, and this is why. And I do think there's a real opportunity here. I really, really do. So I've been curious why no one's really stepped in. But the same could be said. We've got an open U.S. Senate seat open with a potential, certainly an endorsement battle, probably primary battle shaping up on the DFL side. And again, we don't have a real Republican candidate.
Well, I mean, Adam Schwarzy, but he's unknown. Across
Royce White is the most known
unfortunately,
U.S. Senate candidate.
Yeah, unfortunately, Royce White is known, and everything we know about him is that he's a garbage person. He is somebody who, there are few people who I feel in the political world completely free to disparage, and Royce White has just such a horrific backstory that he is just not somebody that I respect, and somebody that if endorsed, I would have a really, really, really hard time voting for. But
a real contender would be Speaker Demuth. Like if I'm Governor Walz and I look across the landscape of Republicans, that's a name and a person that I wouldn't. She is just so thoughtful. She's so smart. She has been so effective as the speaker, despite, as you pointed out, Matthew, all the sort of like real challenges of leadership facing a speaker of a 67 House.
Well, and that's, I was saying, that's one of the things that makes me really wonder, like you never know what somebody is contemplating. There's all kinds of, ambitions, political calculations, personal sacrifices. I mean, I don't need to tell you, Amy, what it means to seek office. But the vetting process when you're running statewide is different than in your local district, right? It's a much bigger experience. The travel, the time away, all those kinds of things. But also, to that point, being the Speaker of the Minnesota House of Representatives is a big deal. Mm-hmm. That's a major accomplishment, and is a position of stewardship for an institution. And at a moment right now where the chamber is split, and she's the presiding officer of the chamber. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, maybe it would be different currently, but I don't know where her caucus would be on it. But in past instances, caucuses don't tend to love having their leader running for higher office when they're on the ballot as well.
Yep.
And we have seen situations, Senate Majority Leader Gazelka being the most recent example of someone stepping down from a leadership role to pursue higher office so that the leader can focus on raising money and getting a message that supports the members of the caucus, while the candidate for higher office is able to focus on those issues. And so I'd be really, fascinated to know kind of some of those conversations and how that has played out, because if, leading a caucus is not something that a lot of people have a lot of experience doing, but doing it in a 50-50 tie,
right.
Sadly, at the moment, only one person has experience doing.
But and also
so what that means for the caucus's organization going into a legislative session in February is really an interesting question.
Oh, for sure. But also, these opportunities don't come up very often, right? Yeah. Open seats like the U.S., which is why I'm amazed the U.S. Senate race with the Republicans struggling so mightily, but or something like this where there's just a lot. Potential working as his governor, who, the last time around he ran, the first time he ran, he certainly had a lot of wind at his back, real kind of moderate from, greater Minnesota guy. Second time around, it was post COVID, but I think that a lot of people felt like he had really managed through that well. A lot of the fraud stuff, while the Feeding Our Future stuff was out there, it hadn't really fully blossomed. There's just a lot more opportunity, plus just going again to Minnesotans and our eternal fight for fairness and just being a nice person and overall reasonable, not liking a third term. These moments don't come up often, and if depending on what happens in a reelect, I guess you could say there might be a empty seat in the governor's office in 4 years, but you cannot bank on that.
No.
So
even setting aside the fact that it would be a third term for Governor Walz, it would be a fifth term for a Democrat.
Yeah.
Which
right.
is even if the governor had stepped away and we were talking about an open governor's race, there are going to be challenges that come with talking about going on what would then be 20 years of one party in an office. That just doesn't.
Which also in Minnesota doesn't go well. You're right. Like we just kind of like to mix things up a bit. So,
Well, and for anybody, we're kind of assuming, because we're capital creatures, and we're assuming that people who are listening know everything about Lisa Demuth. If you're listening from outside of Minnesota or aren't completely familiar with who Lisa is, she lives in the Cold Spring area up in Stearns County near St. Cloud. She was first elected to office in 2019, and last year was her first session as Speaker of the House. And I think it one of the things that I like about her as a potential candidate, not that other candidates don't have this, but I've found her to be a very empathetic person, and I think that's something that Republicans sometimes have a deficit in. So I don't whether she makes decisions that I agree with or not, who knows, but I do know the person that she is, and I have found her to be somebody that is a good type of legislator. And the combination of Lisa Demuth and Melissa Hortman were able to very artfully, deal with one of the most difficult sessions, in Minnesota history, with the tie and the month and a half of not coming to the Capitol while we figure out what a quorum means, all that stuff. And they were able to keep their respective ships in a position that we were able to get deals done at the end of the session, and then everything that has happened afterwards with the assassination of Speaker Emerita Hortman. It takes a special person to be able to navigate that and not make too many missteps. So I don't know if she's in. I don't know if she's out. We don't have to get into what happens if she is, who would take over as Speaker if she were to be in and then step down. We'll do that on another program. But
if she's in,
and
she could happily announce here on the podcast, Minnesota is
we would welcome that
7th or 11th premier political podcast. No, we're the number one podcast.
So Wags, if you're listening,
we're the number one political podcast.
We'll allow it. Jeremiah, if you're listening, come on, give us a call. But in any event, so no matter who on the Republican side decides to run and ultimately get endorsed, and if there's a primary, there's a primary. The Republicans, their main message is going to be fraud, and obviously it goes without saying. I'm not trying to put Matthew in a bad position. Nobody wants fraud. Republicans don't want it. Democrats don't want it. It takes money away from people and institutions who desperately need it, and nobody knowingly, willingly, happily allowed fraud to happen. But Governor Walz now, with some of the things he's doing, is almost trying to close the barn door after the cows have already run away. And the legislative auditor came out this week, which is the legislative auditor is an independent organization, saying that there were controls that were not put in place and warnings that the fraud was happening, and it didn't happen in one place. It happened, there's DHS, there's the Department of Education, there's lots of different places this has happened, and that's something that Governor Walz, whether it's something that he knew about or not, or could have known about or not, he's going to have to own that because it happened under his watch. Did either of you have a chance to kind of look at the article with the legislative auditor? And do you think that this is something is this just something that Republicans are all up in arms about that won't be an electoral issue, or is this going to be the big electoral issue that the Republicans think it's going to be?
I mean, I absolutely think it'll be a major electoral issue, and I think that was absolutely a part of, the governor knew that when he was contemplating the third bid, right? Like, that's not going to be something that is going to surprise him or his folks as they get out and talk about things. I don't think it'll be the only big issue by any means, and you can see a lot of work that the governor's doing currently talking about gun violence that is I think another one of those major big issues. And the other thing is in an era of a Trump presidency, we're going to have 14 more existential. Oh my gosh, I didn't ever think we're going to have to talk about this kinds of issues between now and 13 months from now, right? And so it will absolutely be a centerpiece of Republican messaging this next legislative session, as it should be, and it will be absolutely a part of the campaign. But it won't be the only major issue. It won't be the only thing that motivates voters. It won't be the only thing that candidates raise money off of. There will be a number of very high-profile, very personal issues at the table, because it's just kind of the political world we live in at the moment. There's some big questions that we are kind of grappling with as a state and a country, and the effectiveness of the government with money is absolutely going to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think what's going to come down to it, and I think a little bit what I feel like the Democrats have banked on is, and it's not unreasonable because they have banked on it for the last 4 cycles, is President Trump, and sort of making Trump the top of the ballot even when he wasn't on the ballot. So whether he was on the ballot, as in the last go around in 24, or in 18, where he was the seated president, and it was the interim elections, the midterm elections, or even the sort of the specter of Trump could be running in 2022, sort of making this and nationalizing an election and informing around Trump has been something they've done. I just have. And I've been saying this, really since he got reelected. I don't see that as being effective anymore. I think that so much of sort of the shock around what Trump does and says is gone. And there have been enough things where, he's been, whether you like it or not, his effectiveness as a president, him getting done what he said he was going to get done, has been extraordinary. And I think the American people, Minnesotans included, give some credit for that, whether you like it or not. Mm-hmm. He said what he was going to do and he did it. When I think about it, that he has only been the president for 9 months, I kind of go, what? Jeez. How is that even possible? Yeah. And yet, so I'm not sure, barring, lots can happen in the next year. But at this point, I don't see that as effective. And so what I do see permeating through, and I kind of watch this, right? Are regular people talking about this? Regular people are talking about the money wasted and the fraud wasted. And what I would say for candidates is, don't talk about big things. It's really hard for people to understand $2 billion in fraud, right? But talk about it in terms of, hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on this. People understand, people can understand and wrap their head around, the waste, and as you said, Brian, right, left, center, independent, everybody hates the idea of money that people are paying in being used poorly, or as the legislative auditor said here, that legislative auditor warned of poor internal controls in a state program. We don't say it like that, but that the people tasked with writing those checks, paying that money out to programs that people want to support. Or maybe they don't, right? Maybe there's programs, but either way, whether you support the programs or you don't support the programs, you hate the idea of that money just being given to criminals or given out erroneously or people taking advantage.
Shipped overseas.
Right. And it's not, and it's I can hate that it's being sent overseas. And I can also hate that the millions and billions that are being spent erroneously are not getting to the people that I want it to get to. So,
well, and
it'll be really interesting to Amy, I absolutely agree with you. And then the question becomes one of who's going to try to fix the problem, right? It's if everyone agrees fraud is bad, sure. Okay, well, what is the plan to be better? What is your is there somebody?
Well, true.
Is there somebody at the table who's got an opportunity to think about how we can do these things better, but also in a way that still makes sure that the money gets to people, right? We have to make sure that when we're talking about Medicaid, that we remember it's about caring for the people on Medicaid, right? And so we have to make sure that we design a system that has program integrity measures in it, but at the same time doesn't overcorrect in such a way that it puts at risk the health and safety of the individuals who are relying on these services, even if their service provider of choice is problematic, right? We have to be intentional in these practices, and it's complicated. It is incredibly complicated, and particularly when you've got the overlap of federal law in things like Medicaid, and it can't be accomplished in an hour and a half hearing every handful of weeks. That's just
right.
Like it's more work than that, and it's going to be more work for the governor's administration to come up with something. And so,
but isn't the question too, why is it taking this long? And that was part of the OLA as well. And this, I'm not even talking about just Governor Walz, right, who's been in charge for 7 years. I'm talking about like reports from 2003. Well, that was Governor. Let's see, that would have been Governor Pawlenty.
That's Pawlenty. Yeah.
That's Pawlenty.
Pawlenty's first term.
2000 and let me follow the reports. 2019, that would have been Governor Walz. Audit in 2003. Financial audit-based service in 2007. Well, that would have been also Pawlenty.
Yeah.
Right. This like goes back 2019. Well, okay, yes, that was Walz, but really tail end of the Dayton administration. Yeah. And so, I just think that like. Yes, what are you going to do? But this has been going on a long time.
Well, and the Democrats, just getting back to your point about the Democrat message, is it just going to be, Trump is bad? I mean, the Democrats, I think, are falling into a little bit of the same trap that the Republicans fell into, where they forgot what they're for. They are very clear on what they're against. We're against Obama. We're against Clinton. We're against Biden. We're against Harris. What are we for? And I think where on the national, I'm going to talk about the national. On the national scale, I think the national Democrats are not listening to the rank and file Democrats, who I think want to know, what are the Democrats for? What are you going to do? We all know, we've all made up our mind on Trump. There's no one who says, okay, well, one more thing, and then I'm going to be out.
I'm done with him.
I'm going to be done with him. No, we've all made up our mind, and I think that in our world where we just have politics as a circus, that people want to trust their government. And I think that if Governor Walz is able to impress upon the people of Minnesota that they can trust him, or at least trust him more than the Republican, I think he's going to be in a good position. But I also think that there is, if not Democrat fatigue, I think there is Tim Walz fatigue in Minnesota. So if Republicans present the people of Minnesota with a trustworthy option, I think that trustworthy option has a really, really, really good chance, barring something bizarre happening from Washington, D.C., which is possible, if not probable.
Well, the trustworthy the option is the big question mark, in my opinion. But.
Well, and the other thing, Amy, I think you're absolutely right when you're talking about the problems with the messaging of just tying everything to the president. But I think if we've seen anything in this in the last 9 months and in H.R. 1, that this Trump presidency is different than the last one, if for no other reason than more things are being done and more impacts will be actually felt by people. And I think the shutdown right now and the conversations over the Affordable Care Act tax credits and the impact that means for premiums, like that humanizes and personalizes the impact. Trump is bad. Yeah, okay, sure, whatever. But like, my health insurance went up X number of hundreds of dollars a month. That is I don't need to mention the president other than to say, your health insurance went up because that whole team did this, right? And
true, but most of those impacts will be 2027, right? They'll be post midterms, which was...
Well, the H.R. 1 stuff, but we're in a budget shutdown right now talking about health insurance tax cuts. And whether it's about to happen or it's happened to you yet, like that's the point of how it needs to be messaged, I think.
Let's talk about the shutdown. So we tape on Wednesday, and as of Wednesday, October 22nd, there is not a deal in place. Amy and I were in Washington, D.C. last week, and while the streets were quieter and we didn't get to go to the Smithsonian, we were able to meet with both Republican and Democrat, both House and Senate staff. And so they're still doing the work of the people, but we're starting to see, like we had some colleagues that were out west and are having a little bit more trouble getting here because there isn't as many TSA people that are on. So I think what Matthew's talking about is 100% right, is that I think we all feel, and we've been in Minnesota shutdowns and federal shutdowns before, that we all feel like people are going to get mad, but they don't get mad until it impacts them. And then they get real mad. And
then it happens quickly.
And then it happens quickly.
Right.
So I think that now that some of those, some of that pain is coming, that there's going to be a lot more pressure on Republicans and Democrats to get a deal done. But we all know they don't work together. So it's going to be somebody blinks. And I just don't see the Republicans blinking on this, right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that they can. I'm not sure that the votes are there to blink.
No.
But I also don't know that they've received any kind of like substantive offer from the Democrats. And the question always with these shutdowns is, I mean, besides the damage that can get done, sort of who's going to bear the blame of it. And it generally is the party in power. I think back to the pressure from the Minnesota shutdown, of which I was the majority leader with Governor Dayton. And Governor Dayton went out on listening tours, which were meant to sort of get people whipped up and sort of point the finger at Republicans in the legislature. And it didn't wash. He went out for 2 days of listening. He had a whole week or two planned. And he came back in within 2 days and gave us an offer that he had put on the table on June 30th before the shutdown happened, because he got out there and, Miller Coors was going to be taken off the shelf. The zoo had been closed for a while. People were, as you said, state parks. People had actually started to feel the effects. And what was supposed to be sort of a victory lap and putting pressure on us turned into 2 days of getting yelled at and him coming back and saying, let's cut a deal. We're cutting a deal and we're not raising taxes. And that was the deal.
And I'm sure that the members of the Minnesota Licensed Beverage Association were giving you straight up hell and fighting hard for their
and it was about
and their retail members.
Well, it was about 21 days too. It was the longest shutdown in state history. So we're kind of at, what are we at now for days in the shutdown? It's 20. We're kind of at that point where I think the effects start to get felt from my experience.
And to your point, I mean, you started this by saying, like, the folks in control get blamed for it. And so, last I checked, Democrats were in the minority and outside of the White House in Washington, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, I think it's an interesting nuance to be able to argue that the minority caucus is the reason that you can't pass a state or pass a federal budget, right?
Of course.
I mean,
well, in part it is though because of the supermajority.
United States Senate.
Yeah, right. You need 60.
You need 60. I mean, it's become a supermajority in the Senate.
I recognize that at the same time.
Most people don't know that.
Yeah. We know you know that.
I mean, like the message, culture motions is an interesting concept to put on the list piece. I guess I would say, right? Like that's going to be
but culture,
right? But at that same piece, whether it's blinking or all right, like we're going to open up the government, and then now you are going to own, the healthcare premium changes that come from losing the Affordable Care Act tax credit. Like if that's all right, and that's going to happen, it's very clear, I think, or at least my perception of it, that there is a primary issue. To this extent, the Democrats have identified their priority in this budget negotiation as a singular thing that I think has a broad impact across all 50 states and across members of both political parties, right?
They do do a better job of still getting it out there, though, Matthew. I don't think that most Americans have absorbed that message. I see them trying, but it took them about 20 days to find that message.
Maybe.
I mean, we're at 22. By the way, it's 22nd day of the shutdown. So right now is when when people start to feel it, I think.
But I mean, when say they come back in a week and the Senate Democrats roll over and put up the votes and the premiums spike, like it'll be pretty easy for them to message that between then and the next election.
Yeah,
right?
100%. No, you're right.
And I think that and to some extent, unlike other things, this is going to be a hard thing to backfill, right? Like you can create tariffs and then create farm subsidy cash to try to buy back the impact from farmers. But you can't. The way you buy down the health insurance premium is through the tax credit. Like that's the point. Like that, there isn't another mechanism to make folks whole on the back end of this decision, and so it's going to be one that gets actually felt by folks if that's the way the negotiations end up playing out.
Well, we'll definitely keep an eye on this, and Amy and I were in Washington, D.C. last week, so we weren't able to be on the podcast. So we actually haven't been able to talk about the ceasefire in Gaza. And obviously, it is far too complex a situation to get into here at this point in time. But on October 10th, there was a negotiated ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. I think that President Trump and his team deserve a fair amount of credit. That was even recognized by former President Clinton and others. I like when Ronald Reagan says it's amazing what you can get done if you don't care who gets credit. So I think the credit is not as important as something that is taking so many lives in a region and having the ripple effect of, it's leading to lives being taken, in the United States of America as well, with some of our political violence. So this is something that right now Vice President Vance and Jared Kushner and other people are kind of over there. I don't know. They're saying that they're not there to babysit the deal, but it is very much in a tenuous position with some skirmishes still happening here, there, and accusations going back and forth. But I mean, I know it's something that we all hope that the ceasefire stands and gets stronger and that we build upon it. But, is that something that's reasonable to expect in a region that hasn't had stability for thousands of years?
Right. I mean, the skirmishes don't. I'm not surprised, right? And I don't think anyone should say, okay, there it is. That's the end of the ceasefire, because it's just, as you said, to have such a volatile region suddenly just everybody decide to be done is impossible. But I certainly, what I was pleased about was it felt like both sides of the aisle seemed to come together. Last week, there was a moment where it felt like, oh, okay, former President Obama is agreeing like this deal is a good deal and quite a lift by the Trump administration. And Jared Kushner, right? I mean, who's out there talking? I just saw him talking to it. Was it ABC? I mean, kind of giving the inside track on it.
If Karen Baratz was here,
must Secretary of State Rubio be like, I'm the Secretary of State during his name's not in any of the stories.
I didn't see it right. It was all Kushner. I was like,
it's all Kushner. I think that Marco is going over there now by the article that I read. But if Karen Baratz was here, she would give her very famous Jared's over there. He's taking care of the ceasefire. So proud of him.
Rubio's been focused on Venezuela and shutting down the drug lords.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, this is something that obviously we'll keep an eye on. And the older I get, the more just worried and less political I get with this stuff. And this is not something where I'm, rooting for one team or the other to win, whoever the teams are. Right now, I just want peace there, and then we're going to figure out everything else. I mean, obviously, I have my biases. I've been very clear that this was something that, in my opinion, was started by Hamas, and Hamas is evil and they're terrorists and all that. But it's the people there that are suffering right now, and I think that we are a world that needs to start healing, not opening up continuously these wounds. But what do I know?
What do you know?
What do I know? So let's move on to Spanks and Thanks. Or plugs. Let's go to plugs. Amy, what you got?
Let's see. Well, you can catch Brian and I every Tuesday on the BS podcast with Bob Sansevier, where you get your podcasts, or radio stations around the state. I wanted to thank WCCO or WCCO Radio and Strib. We did a story on the governor's race and sort of the GOP side of things, and did an interview with WCCO for this week. Next Tuesday the 28th, Channel 4, WCCO TV, is going to be hosting a debate for the mayoral candidates in Minneapolis. I will be on giving sort of the GOP perspective on Minneapolis, which is, no. But on the mayor's race, yeah. And then I will also be on the following Tuesday as, of course, the election, and I'll be doing election coverage, as I have been for the last couple cycles, on WCCO Channel 4, so you can catch me there too.
Woo! Woo. Well, Matthew, it's not often that we have a third television star here, so we've been seeing you on the tube a lot lately. You got anything to plug?
No, I mean it's not in the orchestrated or self-promoting media side of things. I don't mean that.
Yeah, you're wrong.
In fact, I was going to say, when you're seeing me now, I'm just trying to talk about important issues on behalf of clients. But I will say that Brian, we had a chance to banter briefly the other day about your new venture into sports media. Yeah. I'm just going to say, if you need a substitute, relief pitcher out of the bullpen on that podcast either. I don't know which side of the table I sit on, because I'm a Bears fan like you, but I'm a Democrat like Commissioner Bingham, and I don't know where we go into those kinds of things. But how
about this? If the Bears beat the Ravens, you're on Monday.
There we go. Yeah. There we go.
We'll high five. Well,
you'll be in no condition to comment.
Yeah, I'll be so surprised. I'll be so surprised. But I'm open to be surprised. So, as Matthew just said, in addition to Wrong About Everything, Carla Bigham, Commissioner Bigham, sometimes co-host on this program, and I have a new sports-focused podcast called Wrong About Sports. Gabe is our producer on that, and he's doing a hell of a job there. And in addition, last Friday, I did comedy at the Rusty Bumblebee in Blaine, Minnesota, which was a ton of fun. And I got a couple of shows coming up in November that I will promote as we get closer to that. But Amy and I, we're just not only on the Bob Sansevier Show, we're also on the Al Travis Show.
Oh, yes. Every other Friday, we get to hang out with Al and talk politics. And it's just super fun. Al is all over. He and Bob, I think between the two of them, have every radio station in greater Minnesota covered, and some in the metro as well. So that's super fun.
All right.
Well, Brian, I just want to cut in real quick and let the listeners know that if they want to see Wrong About Sports, there's a playlist on the Wrong About Everything YouTube page as well as at Wrong About Sports podcast show, which is WAS podcast show on YouTube.
Giddy up. Thank you so much. All right, let's go to Spanks and Thanks. Who wants to go first?
Matthew, you want to go?
Sure. We'll start with my thank. This week, news, anytime we can go on Wrong About Everything and talk about a story from People Magazine, I'm here for it. But reports came out regarding the former Prime Minister of Canada and the pop star Katy Perry. And I just want to say, in this era of really serious political drama that drives our media coverage, thank you to former Prime Minister Trudeau for something just truly knucklehead, right? Like I just, the good old days when former politicians, and just silly salaciousness was the headline of the day. Like I long for those days. So thank to People Magazine for bringing us the important stories of the day.
A picture of them smooching. Thanks.
It's stuff that definitely you would think at this point just about everything would be on my 2025 bingo card, because things are so wild. But I can tell you,
We didn't have
You'd have
that.
asked me a million, like, what is going to be the, hot bucket celebrity relationship? Trudeau and Katy Perry would have been nowhere on
No,
that
it's like a
list.
Mad
So,
Libs.
Yeah, it's goofy.
right? That's exactly. I mean, that is exactly
Name a
what
world
it is.
leader.
That is exactly.
Name a
what
washed
it
up pop star.
is.
Britney
And,
Spears and Vladimir Putin.
Right. Same.
right. And so my spank this week goes out to the organizers and related officials for the Ashland County, Ohio. As you maybe saw, there was a story out this week where the Democratic Party booth was removed in that county fair over offensive buttons. The budget of it is he still alive, or is he dead yet? I believe. And don't get me wrong, like tactfulness, particularly in light of an era of political violence, like. Is that something I would have bought? Absolutely not. Is it something I found funny? Not really. No, right? But the idea that in a public gathering you can shut down somebody for what they said and that law enforcement was being used as part of that is really troubling, right? I mean, I absolutely have walked through the Minnesota State Fair over the years and seen some, shirts and T-shirts being sold by political vendors that I found offensive, that I found inappropriate, that I didn't like, right? But, they have the right to sell that, and it wasn't, obscene in a exposed to children kind of way. And I'd have a real problem if, the state fair police came in and kicked somebody out for what they were selling along those lines. And so I think that's inappropriate. I think you can criticize it. I think you can absolutely say that crossed the line and was wrong. But I don't think that the government gets to weigh in and send law enforcement in to stop speech. And so my spank is to everyone involved in that.
Very cool, Amy.
All right. So I guess it's I don't know if it's a thank, but I wanted one piece of news that we did miss this week. So I'll thank them both. Is current Attorney General Keith Ellison and Attorney Ron Schutz. So we have a very, I think, interesting and exciting Attorney General's race shaping up here. Ron Schutz, the GOP, has announced that he will be running for Attorney General, and Attorney General Keith Ellison, the current Attorney General, has announced that he will run for re-election for a third term. Now, he would not be the first AG to serve a third term, unlike the governor. That is not Ben. But I just think that that's shaping up to be kind of a race to watch, especially if should there be something competitive on a governor's level as well. So I'll just thank them both for jumping in. And don't forget, the Attorney General makes a lot of really important decisions in the state, so pay attention to that race.
So I know that the last Republican Attorney General was Doug Head, but
Wow.
was that the 60s, Matthew? Has it been that long?
Let's see how many years.
I can't do math in my head like
Oh,
that. Anyway, it's been a really long time since there's been a Republican Attorney General, which is kind of amazing because
50
we've had Republican governors and Republican other constitutional officers, but the Democrats have really had the number for Attorney General.
Right. It's been I think it's 50 years. It's been a very long time.
He left office in 1971.
Okay.
And
So before
Warren
I was
Bennett,
born,
replaced him.
I'm going to be 53 years old in December.
Well, that makes sense because 71 was, well, we always said that was the mark for the Minnesota Senate, and we'd had it for 30 years or 40 years or whatever it was. So that makes sense then before when, yep. Oh, yikes.
Sorry.
All right. And then my spank goes to Karine Jean-Pierre, the former spokesperson for Joe Biden. She's written a book and she's out there touting the book. And I get it. She's trying to sell a book. So maybe this is why she's being sort of controversial. But in it, she talks about how she can no longer stomach being a Democrat for how the Democrats chased former President Biden out of the race. And that's fine. You can have your opinion. You can say, look, you kind of let him go on until you put him in front of a huge debate audience, and where she even characterizes his debate performance as disappointing. But she's been arguing that Biden was clearly sharp and able to govern, and that what was done to him was nothing to do with that. And I just don't think that's believable on any level.
Even Colbert called bullshit on that.
Right. Yeah. Even Stephen Colbert, who is, by the way, a big Biden guy, was like, look, I'm not talking about like his heart or his whatever. I'm talking about like his ability to actually govern. And he even talked about how, even he'd seen him at a fundraiser maybe several months before the debate. And that was not the same person that was doing the debate performance. So I just think, again, she can have her opinion on how he was forced out, but I think it's an interesting argument to make that he was completely all there and governing just fine. It just stretches the bounds of credulity to say that. And it seems like you were there, you were close, you know better than anybody. So Jean-Pierre is spanked.
All right. So my thank. I think I put them in reverse order on the run sheet. But my thank is going to be to Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. Actually, maybe this was 2 weeks ago. I was at an event where he and Tim Walz ended up being the final panel, and I was 10 feet from him. And I can say that there might not be any Ozempic left in Illinois because I think he has taken it all. Not that I'm judging. But J.B. Pritzker, who is very much on the Democrat 2028 presidential shortlist, in his latest tax filings, reported earnings from playing blackjack of $1.4 million from Vegas. And we all know, Pritzker's family, they're billionaires, and I'm certainly not going to judge him for that. But having been somebody who is been to Vegas numerous times and likes to play blackjack, and I certainly don't have any special talent at it, but I can't imagine how much you're betting in order to win $1.4 million.
You guys are not at the same table.
We are not at the same table.
Not at any of our tables.
But why it's a thank is that I finally know what the JB stands for. It's Johnny Blackjack. So Johnny Blackjack Pritzker, you are thanked. And my spank is just going to be, I'm shaking my head here. So, this weekend, there were many No Kings rallies all across, not just the country, but across the world. And, if that's how people want to spend their time, that is great. But there was a breaking news Twitter that over 18 countries planned No Kings demonstrations showing solidarity with the American people. The following countries were participating: Portugal, Spain, Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Belgium, Czech Republic, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Italy, Ireland, United Kingdom, Canada, Mexico, Costa Rica, Japan. Guess what a lot of those countries have? They have kings. Those countries have kings.
Actual kings.
They have actual kings. Now,
unelected family titles.
Yeah.
Kings.
So I'm not saying they couldn't have like a no tyrant or whatever. Well, they could have easily pivoted off of this, which I think now they're going to. But come on. Come on. So they are spanked just because they needed to sound that out. They needed to say that out loud and have someone raise their hand. Maybe someone like in junior high.
If you have crown jewels anywhere, although they just got stolen. Did you hear the crown? They broke into the room at the Louvre.
The Louvre, yeah.
The Louvre. And stole many of the crown jewels, the French crown jewels.
Well, and this just in.
Jared.
Not Jared again.
No. Johnny Blackjack Pritzker just had to update his tax filings because he had to say that he has crown jewels now.
Crown jewels.
That's what. Anyway. So
I just thought that was I love that story that somebody broke in, got the crown, got jewels.
Well, now we'll have a documentary on Netflix that we can watch. So that'll be great. So with that, I am hoping that the Bears beat the Ravens and that Matthew is on the Wrong About Sports podcast on Monday, and GOP strategist Brian Frederickson
I am former Republican Senate Majority Leader Amy Frederickson.
I'm DFL lawyer lobbyist Matthew Bergeron.
And we are
Wrong about
Frederickson. Love you, Clint. Thank you, Matthew.
Thanks, Matthew.
Thank you to the Tranche Master.
Oh, yes.
Ryan
Don't
Smith.
forget the tranche.